Managing Director of Harvey and Hugo, and she's joining us. She's been invited back for a second time. Her presentation is titled Communicating Your Way Out of Coronavirus. I'm really looking forward to this one. I hope you are. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Charlotte to the stage.
Thanks very much, Ash. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all really well. So a few things. There are goodie bags available on our virtual stand. So just message Ash, pop a yes in the text box if you would like to receive a goodie bag. They have 20% off our pay-as-you-go services. So that's quite a good deal for the rest of July. There's also a half-year wall planner calendar, virtual calendar, that has lots of fun awareness days that you can use to add some creativity into your social media. And I'll also put the slides in there as well. So please let Ash know if you would like one. Another thing to warn you on, I do have bad hay fever at the minute. So if you hear me sniffing and reach for a tissue, I apologise again about that. So we thought that we would start the session with a poll. We started one last time and it worked really well, got some really interesting information. So has your marketing activity restarted yet? Options: it never stopped, which great, big thumbs up if that's you. Yes, it's restarted, fantastic. We'll be talking more about that today. And if it's still on hold, don't worry about it. You can put this plan into action when you're ready. So if you could please vote and select the right one that suits you, that would be fantastic. And then Ash will display the results. Is it going to come through straight away? Yeah, brilliant. Never stopped. Fantastic. 73% of you have never stopped. That's wonderful to hear. This will help you build on that activity. Restarted. Fantastic. You can still capitalize on it. There's still time to get your messages out there. And still on hold. Again, don't worry. We're all doing what we can do in this situation. So when you are ready to restart, you'll be ready after listening to this. So I'm going to share my screen now. Usually goes a little bit wrong for a moment, just while I sort it all out. Right, okay, so today we are communicating our way out of coronavirus. A little bit about me. Got a degree from Loughborough University, that's quite boring. Been in PR and marketing 16 years now. Set up Harvey and Hugo 11 years ago. It's actually our 11th birthday on Thursday. So this time 11 years ago, I was all nervous, didn't really know what I was getting myself into. We've won awards for our flexible pay-as-Hugo PR. We work from really small micro businesses and startups to unicorn tech companies and international organizations. And what really fascinates me is the science behind building a brand. The limbic part of your brain is where all your emotions and memories are stored. And that's what we try and do at Harvey Hugo. We make brands lovable and memorable. So we're going to be talking about how to think with our hearts. A lot of decisions are going to be made this way. I'll be sharing my 4 C's for communicating a way out of this. And then we will discuss strategies and tactics to play the virus at its own game. So hands to heads to hearts is a theory that Thomas Friedman, a journalist, came up with. And basically what it means is that back in the Industrial Revolution, lots of people worked with their hands. Throughout the technological evolution, which is kind of what we're going through at the minute, people worked with their heads and their brains. But Thomas believes that the future will be about people thinking and making decisions with their hearts, very emotional purchases. And again, this is why we say that to buy from your brand, to believe in your brand, people need to see it, they need to click on it, they need to hear it, they need to read about it, but most importantly, they need to feel it. And coming out of coronavirus, people are going to be making more decisions based on their emotions. So, number 1, communicate with clarity. Now, I've put communicate at the start of every 4C because the communication element is just so important. We need to communicate in every sense of the word. And don't just think that this is all about external communications. Internal communications is just as important. You know, your team need to be on brand, they need to be on message, they need to know what you're saying so they can deliver the message to the team. So as soon as you've developed your message, make sure your team know first. You probably need to adapt your messaging. We've been through quite a lot. Some things are very different. We're in this new normal phase, as they call it. So what you were doing PR and marketing wise before the pandemic might not work after the pandemic. So you need to revisit that. Think of a different strategy. You know, is your purpose still the same? It is brilliant. Do you need to revisit your marketing messages? So you need to have something that's very clear. We're all quite, as human beings, we like to have decisions made instantly, or our brains do anyway. When we're looking at a website, if we can't work things out and work out what you do within 15 seconds, we will generally click off the page. So there's a saying, if you confuse, you lose. And that's really important with PR and marketing messages. So you need to develop a clear message, something that people can get instantly, something that resonates with your target audience. Sometimes you think of messages that are for you and make sense to you, but what's obvious to you might not necessarily be obvious to your target audience. So put yourself in their shoes and create a message. Tell your story as well. Be honest and be genuine. Tell your lockdown story. What happened? You know, did you lose clients? Were you stressed? Have you revamped things? Have you changed the way you offer your services and your products? And tell people about it. People want to know real stories. They buy into real humans, real human approaches. So yeah, communicate with clarity. The next one is communicate with consistency. So Robert Zajonc, if that's how you pronounce his surname, apologies, I think he was Swiss, and he developed the mere exposure effect. And basically, it means that familiarity breeds likability. So essentially, the more you expose your brand, I nearly said expose yourself, that's not a good idea, although it's memorable. The more you expose your brand, the more likable it will become. And this might mean that your brand's not necessarily the best, but the more people know it, the more people will recall it, the more it'll be memorable. So that's certainly something to bear in mind. And it certainly explains why you see big brands like McDonald's, like Coca-Cola, continuously advertising their products on billboards. When you think, well, we know about a Big Mac, we know what it is. It's scientifically proven that repetition of message generates brand recall, likability, brand loyalty. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, obviously, even if you've dipped your toe in the water a few times during lockdown to just kind of show that your business is still going, consistency has generally been lacking for businesses. But now's the time to be brave and start sharing that message on a consistent basis. Repurposing your message is very important, because although brand repetition is important, it's better if it's repurposed. So that's saying this, sharing the same clear message, but just perhaps in different ways. So adding in different words to explain your process, but also telling your story on different platforms like video, like animation, and could you create an infographic? So sharing the same clear message, but just in different ways. That means people don't get bored all the time of what you're sharing. Your message has to be consistent with your values. The two have to marry up. It's really important to always bear that in mind. And by creating a consistent communication strategy, it builds credibility and trust. And these are obviously vital in any purchasing decision. You always want credibility and trust. A nice example of this is Virgin Media and their campaign during the lockdown. They have the stay connected message, and they kept that theme throughout, so it was consistent and it was clear. Stay connected, but then they also had stay singing, stay home. So that stay message was repeated, which was strong. And they also encouraged people to get involved, make little videos from home, and they got their children involved. They got people's children involved, which is a great engagement tool and has that cute factor as well. And so that's the consistency. We must also communicate with consideration. You must consider your audience. You must consider what people have been through. We've all been through the same storm, and we've all been through the same things, but people have suffered differently. So And it's different depending on your target audience. So you must consider that in your marketing message. And you must be compassionate as well. I'm all about these C words, compassionate, not the naughty one though. You must be compassionate as well. And if you really can build that in, remember what I started with, people are going to be making decisions based on their emotions. So if you can build in some heart to your campaign, it's going to help people. And if you resonate with that limbic part of the brain, it's directly linked to the decision-making process that human beings make. It's not enough anymore just to share information, to share a clear message, just to share consistent messages. Yes, they're great. They're ticking the 2 of the 4 C's that I'm talking about, but you also need to be compassionate. You need to help people, and you need to share useful information. Like today, for example, a lot of the exhibitors, a lot of the people speaking, they're giving away stuff as well. That's really important. We're helping people, giving away discounts. Not everyone, we are, because we want to help people at this time. Timing is really important. Keep an eye on the news, keep an eye on what's happening, because you can't be considerate if you're not fully informed. So for example, for a bad example, say there was a package for the arts announced yesterday. If all of a sudden you had a campaign targeting the arts ready, but you hadn't seen on the news this happened, you could be accused of kind of trying to capitalize on this. So always stay informed, because that will really help you consider your target audience, consider their needs. A company that targeted me recently actually is WorldPay, and they are being considerate of the situation. They're offering large trials. I think it was a 6-month trial of handheld card portals. So they're helping people be contactless. They're helping people develop e-commerce platforms and using their tools in the back end of that. And obviously by being compassionate, considerate in these times, it will build brand loyalty further on. Nationwide Building Society, they always run those TV ads. Sometimes they're quite annoying, sometimes people love them, but they're memorable either way. They launched a campaign where they were sharing messages to themselves 6 months from now, and they actually came across very human and genuine. Some people did poems about their wedding and when they'll be married 6 months from now, and again, that was ticking those boxes. It was clear, it was consistent with their previous messaging and strategy, but it was also compassionate, and it had really given consideration to the target audience and what they were feeling at the minute. Creativity. So we love creativity at Harvey Hugo. Most kind of PR marketing agencies do. At the minute though, we have to rein ourselves in a little bit. We have to have a balanced approach. It's important because you've got to cut through the noise, especially now that most people have restarted their PR and marketing campaigns. So there's noise out there again, but you have to think, is this sensible? Is this considerate again, given the target audience? TikTok has been brilliant during the pandemic, but you didn't see a lot of brands suddenly jumping on it and doing silly videos because, again, a lot of people were going through hard times. Personally, it was fine to do that. A way of kind of telling your story creatively is having the same message and the same strategy, but using these more creative platforms to perhaps add different videos. If you'd always send press releases out, start doing videos. A lot of people did that during the pandemic because more people had time to watch. Keep that going if that's really worked for you. And again, timing's really important for creative campaigns. I mentioned this in the last one, but Brewdog done a fantastic effort. They came up with the Barnard Castle brew, which was their Hazy Jane, and it was all a play on the coming situation and the testing of the eyesight. So timing can help you be creative and very reactive. So yeah, strike a balance. Don't be afraid to be creative. You can still be creative and have some fantastic campaigns, but just have a think, could this backfire in any way? Are we considering all of our audiences? And then go for it. So play the virus at its own game. As kind of content creators, as marketing teams, you can create contagious content as well. It's not just the virus. So let's fight back against it with that. I read a book during lockdown about the rules of contagion by Adam Kukarski, and it was fantastic. It compared marketing content, it compared other things as well that can happen and replicate themselves like a virus. And actually, Jonah Peretti, the founder of BuzzFeed, he has a formula very similar to the R number of the virus. And he uses that, and I'm not going to go into the formula because maths is not my strong point, but he uses that formula to deem if a campaign has been successful or not. So content, like the virus, can have its own R rate or reproduction number, which I did find fascinating. And it's true when you think about it. Your content also has to be unique, make it special. You know, this coronavirus has got our attention because it was a novel coronavirus. No one had heard or experienced it before. We were unprepared for it. So create new, fresh, engaging content. And, you know, sometimes it can just be told in a different way. So we recently announced that we were giving up our office for a year to see what it was like. And we might go back and get an office. But instead of writing a traditional press release, I wrote a breakup letter to the office. So, dear office, it's not you, it's us. We've changed. We just don't need you anymore. And it got a lot more attention, and it did go viral within the communities I wanted to see it. So, you know, think differently. How can you create that unique content that's going to get that R rate high? Your content also needs to be adaptable. So again, if you think of the virus mutates, and that's what's making it so successful in terms of the virus. It's unsuccessful for us because we're struggling to kind of develop vaccines, and it keeps changing itself in people to adapt to the situation. But your content needs to be like that as well. So I've already talked about today, creating your content for multimedia, create a press release, create an article, create some social media, and that might be a tweet, an Instagram post, create an infographic, create an animation, create a video, create a blog, create lots of different ways of sharing your content. So you're repurposing it, it's consistent, it's creative, and also allow other people to adapt it. You know, how can they engage with your content? That's what people need. Can they take it? Can they add to it? If you think of most memes that tend to go viral, people sometimes adapt the wording to suit situations that they're in, and then it helps spread it further. So make sure you create adaptable content. And then find your super spreaders. Again, the word super spreaders has negative connotations with the coronavirus. However, with content, super spreaders are fantastic. They're also known as influencers, and you've probably heard a lot about them lately. Influencers do not have to be celebrities. They do not have to have millions of followers. If they do, fantastic, and you've got the connections for that, brilliant. That can only help your brand so long as they've got the right associations. But also consider micro-influencers. There's been a real surge in micro-influencers during the pandemic because they're accessible and people are finding them a lot more believable. You know, celebrities and their endorsements on Instagram, for example, they have had a bad reputation lately. But micro-influencers could be people with a few thousand followers. They could even have 200 or 100 followers or 3. If those 3 followers are absolutely relevant to your target audience, that's what it's all about. And also it can be geographical. It could be industry related. It doesn't just have to be mass market influencers. So find your super spreaders, no matter what size they are, and help them spread your message and beat the virus, play the virus at its own game. So in summary, just on that, actually, I've got a really good example about the super spreaders. Innocent, I love Innocent smoothies. I love the taste of them, but I love the brand. They're so clever, they're so creative. And if you want to see some brilliant examples of what they did during lockdown, go to their social media accounts. But they created their rebrand. That wasn't my Wi-Fi. The re was repeated several times. And they've come up with some really naff designs. They were playing on how when they create a new brand, you can never please the masses on social media. So they kept readapting it, and it's brilliant. You know, they had Comic Sans in there. So that actually went viral, and they were taking the mickey out of going viral with it. So that's a perfect example of playing the virus at its own game. It was a unique content. They don't need influencers or super spreaders because they are one themselves. They've built their brand up so big. And their R rate for that campaign would be phenomenal. So in summary, create your messages. So communicate. Create a clear message and maybe revisit things. Create a consistent campaign. Remember the mere exposure effect. Familiarity breeds likability. Be considerate and compassionate, and be creative in a balanced way. Don't be going crazy. Now's not the time to be unsafe with your marketing or anything else. And then 5, play the virus at its own game. Create unique content. Use influencers, and think of the R rate and adapt and mutate your content. And just thrown in another C word at the end there, contingency. We may be in and out of lockdown for some time. Have contingency plans for your PR marketing. It does not need to stop. You can still keep going, you can still keep spreading the message, but have different plans. So I think that's me. I am done, but don't forget to visit our virtual stand and click on the goodie bag form, and then I will be busy later on, and don't worry if it's this evening, but you will get your goodie bag items as soon as possible.
Charlotte, thank you very much. That's kind of you. It was a brilliant presentation. We have got 8 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you a quick question, and I'm going to put it out to the floor if they do have any questions, to use the Q&A function, and we can go through those if we've got time. I wanted to ask you about genuine posts and PR with regards to things going on in the outside world. So we see a lot about Black Lives Matters, which is obviously an incredibly important cause, but should we just do that, post for the post's sake? And I mean that in the most sensitive way possible, but how do you align yourself with genuine causes that mean a lot to you?
Yeah, you've always got to revisit your values here, and do things because they feel right for the brand. Don't just do things for the sake of it. People will see through that. Again, the 4 C's apply. In a lot of these things, you have to have a clear message. Decide what is our strategy here, what is our stance as a company. Have a clear message, and then be consistent with it. Don't change your mind throughout. Consider people, consider your target audience, consider feelings, consider the wider population, and also again, with for example the Black Lives Matter, when people changed their Instagram feeds to the black squares, people did it in different ways, so there was still creativity expressed there. But equally, I know Yorkshire Tea had a fantastic response when someone made a ridiculous comment that they weren't getting involved, and they just said, we're watching, we're learning, we're listening, and we will be showing our response later. So don't be afraid to take time on these things. Yeah,
I saw that. Didn't they PG tips as well?
And
don't jump in with one.
It was brilliant, and they used the hashtag solidarity, which respect for that.
Sophie Graham's asked just quickly, what have you found to be the most effective social platform for B2B marketing?
For me, it has to be LinkedIn. Excuse me. And LinkedIn saw a surge in demand at the start of lockdown. It was crashing on people, but we've been using LinkedIn a lot throughout the campaign, and the premium features as well. The advertising we've been getting more value for money recently. More people have been on there clicking on our campaigns. So for me, it has to be LinkedIn as the number one. Twitter also is pretty good for B2B, but equally, using Instagram, it can still have an effect. I wouldn't say it's a priority for us for a B2B market, but we use it a lot for building our brand community. And obviously it has other benefits, recruitment and things like that.
Brilliant, thanks very much. That's all the questions that we've got. If anyone does want to squeeze a last minute one in there, we have got a bit of time. I can certainly ask that to Charlotte. And whilst I just wait, anyone that wants Charlotte's goodie bag, which contains her slides for this presentation, a social media planning calendar with all the important dates of when you need to post, as well as a 20% off voucher code for her services, please do put yes in the chat, and I'll make sure that's sent over to you. There's a few people typing it now, so that's great. I will definitely make sure Charlotte's in touch with that and she sends them over. But I guess that's it. So I want to thank Charlotte for presenting a fantastic talk there. I really enjoyed that one. And I want to obviously thank all of our visitors who joined us again for another session. We have another presentation in 15 minutes, so I hope you can join us again. But yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye and good luck.